Stick and rudders, power on stall. The layman is always surprised if you tell him that an airplane can stall, even though its engine is running full blast. It seems nonsensical, yet it is so. With remnants of the layman's idea in mind, many student pilots think that with the power on, the airplane has at least much more lift than with power off, that it can be brought to much higher angle of attack before it will stall. It seems reasonable and seems to be born out of experience, yet it is not so. With power on, just as with power off, the airplane stalls for one reason only, because its wings are meeting the air at excessive angle of attack. And excessive means the same whether the power is on or off. For most wing shapes, anything more than about 18 degrees is excessive. Disregarding for the moment certain small differences, which will be discussed below, the airplane stalls with power on at the same angle of attack at which it stalls the power off. The picture catches the moment when a power stall occurs. Tilt the power stall picture over on its side so that the flight arrow points downward and the airplane's nose points only slightly up. You will see that the whole configuration of flight path, attitude, and angle of attack is then exactly the same as in the power off stall. That thing right there. The only important difference is that the power off stall happens in downward flight, the power on stall in upward flight. Why in upward flight? An airplane cannot stall unless it's first slowed up. To slow it up with the power on, it must be put into a steep climb. Hence, a power stall can occur only in a steep climb. That's why the nose is so extremely high in such a maneuver. The nose would be very high even if the airplane were simply in a steep climb. To produce the stall, the nose must be raised even more. Thus, the big difference between power off stall and power on stall is in the comparatively unimportant matter of flight path and attitude. In the important matter of angle of attack and relative wind, the two stalls are essentially alike. There is really only one kind of stall. The wind meets the air at excessive angle of attack. It must be admitted that the power does make certain small but important differences in the character of the stall. It was explained in connection with the power off stall that the average airplane's wing will begin to stall first near the wing root, last near the wing tip. Then the root part of the wing, however, is exposed not only to the relative wind due to the airplane's motion through the air, but also to the blast of the propeller. The actual airflow upon which the wing root works is in composite of two winds, relative wind and propeller blast. When the airplane as a whole is brought to a very high angle of attack, while the power is on, the propeller blast keeps the air flowing from burbling at exactly the place where it would tend to burble first if the power off near the wing root. Thus, the airplane as a whole may be brought to a slightly higher angle of attack and must be flown at very slightly slower speed with power on than with power off. When the burbling of the airflow finally begins, it doesn't begin near the wing root as it does power off stall, but further along the wing, and hence the power on stall is more likely to lead to sudden loss of lateral stability and loss of control. The airplane is likely to capsize sideways as it stalls, and if the pilot then misuses his ailerons, the stall is more likely to develop into a spin. I did that, it was awful. This stall delaying effect of the propeller blast is particularly marked in
Tonight at 6:30 p.m., we have an author talk with author Joanna Baker.
The stall delayed effect of the propeller blast is particularly marked in multi-engine airplanes because in such airplanes, large parts of the wing are exposed to propeller blast. Thus, such airplanes can be flown quite appreciably more slowly and at appreciably higher overall angle of attack. With power on, then they can be flown with power off. But even with such airplanes, these differences between power off and power on stall are small. As comparable with the similarities, essentially there is only one kind of stall. The wing meets the air at too much angle of attack. There is only one way to get an airplane into a stall. The stick is pulled back, the flippers are deflected upward, and thus force the airplane to high angle of attack. And there is only one way to get an airplane out of a stall. Get the stick forward.